What if I told you that one of the most well-known luxury fashion brands in the world, synonymous with sleek suits and sophisticated style, has a past tied to one of history's darkest periods? This is the disturbing story of Hugo Boss, a tale that begins not with fabric and fashion, but with fascism, forced labor, and the rise of the Nazi regime. Before Hugo Boss became a global fashion powerhouse, it manufactured uniforms for Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. In today's documentary, we uncover how a brand built its empire on wartime profits, its connection to the Nazi Party, the use of slave labor, and how it tried to erase that past in pursuit of modern prestige. Chapter 1: The Origins of Hugo Boss. The story of Hugo Boss begins in 1924, when a German man named Hugo Ferdinand Boss founded a clothing company in the town of Metzingen, Germany. Initially, the company focused on producing general-purpose clothing, shirts, jackets, workwear, and raincoats. Germany during the 1920s was facing economic and political instability after World War I, inflation was rampant, unemployment was high, and nationalism was rising fast. Many Germans longed for a return to order, pride, and strength. Enter Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. By the early 1930s, Hugo Boss saw an opportunity, and made a decision that would forever stain the brand's legacy. Chapter 2: The Nazi Connection. In 1931, Hugo Boss officially joined the Nazi Party, 2 years before Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. This move wasn't just political, it was also strategic and profitable. As the Nazi regime grew in power, they needed millions of uniforms for their growing army, paramilitary groups like the SS, the SA, Brown Shirts, and the Hitler Youth. Hugo Boss's factory secured contracts to mass-produce these uniforms, dark, menacing, and impeccably tailored. The company's tailoring was praised for giving the Nazi military a sleek and intimidating image. The SS black uniforms, those symbols of terror, were manufactured in Hugo Boss factories. And the business boomed. By 1940, Boss's company was making massive profits, but not without a horrifying cost. Chapter 3: Forced Labor and War Profiteering. As World War II escalated, Germany faced a major labor shortage. The Nazi regime turned to forced labor, pulling prisoners of war, political prisoners, and civilians from occupied territories into horrific working conditions. Records show that Hugo Boss used over 140 forced laborers, including Polish and French prisoners, to meet the growing demand for Nazi uniforms. These workers lived in overcrowded barracks, were given little food, and endured brutal hours under constant surveillance. Many of them were women. The company profited directly from this exploitation, and never once resisted the regime or questioned its morality. Even more disturbingly, Boss's factory didn't just go along with the Nazis. It thrived because of them. Chapter 4: After the War, Denazification and Fines. After the fall of Nazi Germany in 1945, the Allies launched the denazification process to root out Nazi collaborators and sympathizers. Hugo Boss was tried and found guilty of being an activist and supporter of Nazism. He was heavily fined, stripped of the right to vote, and forbidden from running a business. But strangely, this punishment didn't last long. Hugo Boss died in 1948, and the company passed on to his son-in-law, who pivoted the business from military production to men's suits. With time, the brand's Nazi past faded from public memory. But the stains of the past were never completely gone. Chapter 5: Rebranding and the Modern Rise. Through the 1950s and 60s, Hugo Boss reinvented itself as a luxury fashion brand, focusing on men's business suits and eventually expanding into fragrances, accessories, and global markets. By the 1980s, the brand had become a symbol of power and prestige, worn by celebrities, athletes, and executives worldwide. But behind the success, the company never publicly acknowledged its role in the Nazi regime, until decades later. In 1997, journalist Roman Koster published documents proving Hugo Boss's deep involvement with the Nazi Party and use of slave labor. This forced the company to confront its history. Chapter 6: The Apology and Public Backlash. In 1999, facing mounting pressure, Hugo Boss AG issued a formal apology for its actions during World War II. They admitted to using forced labor and expressed profound regret for the company's role in the Nazi war machine. They also contributed to a fund for victims of forced labor, as part of a larger restitution program supported by the German government. Still, critics argued that the apology was too late and too vague. Some Holocaust survivors even called it a PR move, rather than true atonement. To this day, the company distances itself from its founder's legacy, but the internet never forgets. Chapter 7: Can a brand escape its past? So, can a brand like Hugo Boss ever fully escape its past? While the company is now seen as a global fashion leader, many ethical consumers continue to question its origins and its responsibility. It raises a deeper question. Should we hold modern brands accountable for the sins of their founders? And can profits built on oppression and war ever be truly cleansed? In an age of cancel culture, transparency, and social awareness, stories like Hugo Boss's serve as a reminder that even the most luxurious names can have the darkest of foundations. The disturbing story of Hugo Boss is not just a history lesson, it's a reflection on morality, memory, and the cost of silence. If you found this story revealing, consider subscribing for more untold truths behind famous names. Let us know in the comments. Should companies be held accountable for their founders' actions, even decades later? This was the disturbing story of Hugo Boss. Thanks for watching.